U.S. President Donald Trump and the First Lady Melania are wrapping up a tour of fire-ravaged Los Angeles this hour. They have witnessed the destruction firsthand from the air and on the ground. It's their second visit to a disaster zone today. Earlier, they were in an area of North Carolina still reeling from the impact of a powerful hurricane 4 months ago. Let's turn to journalist Steve Futterman. He's in fire-ravaged L.A. neighborhood of Pacific Palisades, where Trump is. Steve, walk us through Trump's visit there and the latest on the fires.
Well, Dwight, it's been a very interesting last couple of hours for Donald Trump. He landed here at LAX on Air Force One and then had it looked very warm and cordial greeting and meeting with Gavin Newsom. Those two have had been at odds many, many times in the past, but they spoke nicely about one another at the airport. Then the president got on Marine One and toured the sites from the air. He saw the devastation here in Pacific Palisades, and then the Marine One went down the coastline. He saw the devastation along the Pacific coastline, those beachfront homes. When he finally landed here, he walked on Fisk Avenue and met with a couple of homeowners, saw the devastation really firsthand there. I've been on that street a lot during the last couple of weeks, and that street is just total devastation, nothing really left on either side of that street. And he talked to the homeowners. For the past 20, 30 minutes or so, he's been taking part in a briefing at the fire station here on Sunset Boulevard. And he talked about working together as far as eliminating the idea of permits when people are starting to rebuild, talking about local and federal government working together. Take a listen.
We're going to work very hard with the mayor, the governor, the supervisor, and everybody, and get the resources behind you. We're going to essentially waive all federal permits. We're going to have you go very quickly because a federal permit can take 10 years. We're not going to do that. We don't want to take 10 days. I would.
So lots of very, very nice reception there when they talk about eliminating the hassle of getting permits. At one point, Donald Trump said, your federal government is behind you 100%. Now, earlier today, a different tone from Donald Trump. He was in North Carolina, thousands of kilometers away from here, and he talked about conditions that he said he would place possibly before California could get federal aid. Much different than what he's talking about here. Take a listen to what he said earlier about conditions being placed on California.
Well, in California, I have a condition. In California, we want them to have voter ID so the people have a voice, because right now the people don't have a voice because you don't know who's voting, and it's very corrupt. And we also want them to release the water. If they released the water, they wouldn't have had a problem. If they released the water when I told them to, because I told them to do it 7 years ago, if they would have done it, you wouldn't have had the problem that you had.
So a much different tone there. But here in Los Angeles, Southern California, it's been really quite bipartisan. Nice comments with the mayor, Karen Bass, who's a Democrat, who he's had some tough words about. Congressman Brad Sherman, who represents this area, they've had some big battles. They've been talking the way you would expect people to talk when they're trying to come together and solve a problem. So that's what the people here hope finally is resulting, and they don't want these battles between policies that Trump wants people to adopt here before he'll give federal aid. They're hoping that will not happen. Now, so we'll just have to wait and see, Dwight.
Yeah, and what we see behind you, that destruction, they need to come together for this. Let's talk about that new statement today from Trump, threatening to shake up how disaster relief is handled in the U.S. Tell us what he had to say on that front.
Well, he was very critical, and he's been very critical really throughout his campaign as well, about FEMA. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That's the agency that basically helps people recover when there's been a hurricane, a fire like this, a tornado. That's the federal agency that comes in and gives assistance, helps people rebuild. Now, obviously, nothing ever goes perfectly, so you do hear criticism of FEMA, and there's been some complaints over the years, but Trump today said that he wants to eliminate FEMA. That would be very, very difficult. The bureaucracy is already in place, but he did express lots of dissatisfaction. Take a listen to what he had to say.
FEMA has been a very big disappointment. They cost a tremendous amount of money. It's very bureaucratic, and it's very slow. Other than that, we're very happy with them. Okay, and I think when there's a problem with the state, I think that problem should be taken care of by the state. That's what we have states for. They take care of problems.
So Donald Trump complaining about FEMA. Listen, he might come up with a new type of name for the agency, but the agency has to remain in place. You need a federal agency to do this type of work. Obviously, he's going to appoint his people to take over that agency and do a better job in his mind. So we'll just have to wait and see about that. So right now, I don't know if we can go to the live picture. This briefing is still going on at the fire station. Trump meeting with local officials, local residents, just people from the area. And that should go on for another 10, 15 minutes. After that, he's leaving Los Angeles and going to Las Vegas, where he'll spend the night there. But I think a very fruitful, I think if you talk to Karen Bass, the mayor, if you talk to Gavin Newsom, the governor, I think they'd be very, very happy with the tone of this conversation here today. Again, when he said the federal government's behind you 100%, that can be interpreted that the government's going to give you the aid that you want.
Journalist Steve Futterman, where the president is tonight in Los Angeles. Thank you for this, Steve.
Thanks, Dwight.